Destination Nightmare, the B-Movie Podcast.
Okay, well, anyway, let's get to today's, I don't even know if this is a movie. It's just a bunch of skits put together.
The Magic Christian. I can remember seeing a photo of Raquel Welch.
Yeah, I remember.
The whip in some book. And
I remember.
The Magic Christian. I'm like, oh, this has got to be a good movie. I was like 10 or 11 years old. And then, so that finally came on TV and I saw it. I'm watching it and going, what the hell? That totally confused me.
Well,
Well, watching it today, I got more of the jokes.
But it was the same joke over and over again.
Yeah, and it's still a terrible movie. It's like that Whitney Swope. It's supposed to be incredibly
I never saw that.
Don't even bother. I mean, it's over the top, and it's so obvious what the message is. It's like, yeah, capitalism sucks. That's the message.
Pretty much, yeah. Or rich people, or decadent rich people like to. I mean, it is a message that resonates today. Decadent rich people like to, put poor people through the ringer just for a few bucks or whatever. But it was, except until what happened at the end, it was pretty benevolent for the most part. But at the end, it was pretty disgusting what they did. But
goofy stuff and some of it, like, the scene with he's buying the hot dog from the guy while he's on the train. It's like, all right, the guy wants to give you change and you can't.
Just take it,
Yeah. I don't see how that's making fun of capitalism.
Originally, it was based on a novel by Terry Southern, but from what I read, originally the script was done by Cleese and Graham Chapman of Monty Python. Yeah. And then the guy Terry Southern, or whatever, the guy wrote the book, rewrote it. But they're in the movie, and they wrote a couple of scenes in the movie. I guess they wrote the scenes they were in, the Cleese scene and the Graham Chapman, maybe, I don't know, but they're in the movie along with the bizarro Yul Brynner in drag.
Who actually didn't look quite bad. After a couple of beers, he probably wouldn't look quite.
That's pretty scary, but I was shocked when I saw it. I go, that's Roman Polanski, and I'm going, who's that? I go, oh, it looks like Yul Brynner, but I don't know because he was lip syncing.
Yeah, he was singing, I think a Cole Porter song or something like that. No,
yeah.
That was it. Mad
About the Boy. Yeah, that was it. Okay. Now I read that Ringo's part was originally intended for John Lennon.
Yeah.
Would have been interesting, but I think, now was this the movie that Ringo, during the White Album, Ringo left and came back, or how they had to end it quickly because he had to go make this movie? I think it was this movie.
It could have been, but I'm not sure. I didn't look up that part of it.
But I think it was around the time of the White Album, because I'm sure that's when Paul wrote
Come and Get It.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, I wonder if he wrote the lyrics to match with the movie. Because I never saw this movie before. I didn't know what it was about. But it's basically about money. And, if you want it, here it is, come and get it. There might be a catch. This whole movie is basically Peter Sellers, who's decadent rich guy, just basically seeing what people will put up with for money. You know?
He kept saying, everybody has a price.
Yeah.
About what that price is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the book, Terry Southern, the writer, wrote, I think he was involved with Dr. Strangelove. He may have even...
This is another movie I've seen, and I'm like, okay, a little heavy-handed.
That's another one I've never seen.
Yeah.
But I've seen enough clips from it that I know. Yeah, all those movies back then were very... The subtlety was not in the playbook there. They were wanting to bang it over your head. Just in case you thought. Now, I'm pretty sure that this movie back in the 70s when I'm watching it, I'm thinking, this thing has midnight movie written all over it.
Yeah, and part of the reason to watch it is to notice all the actors.
Yeah.
In it, and because my family has been watching, British television on PBS for as long as I can remember. I recognized a lot of British actors that I wouldn't normally have recognized, and then you recognize some of the American actors, but it's always like, oh, what the hell's their name? Oh,
I mean, I recognize Cleese Chapman. There was a guy who played the maitre d' towards the when Sellers goes into the restaurant to have that disgusting caviar meal or whatever. One of the guys, I recognize him. Apparently the cop who eats the ticket,
that's
Spike Milligan. Who I've heard about, but I've never seen him before. So, that's Spike Milligan.
He was in a lot of, back in the mid to late 60s, a lot of comedians came out of like Oxford and
the radio, and they did radio. The Goons, I think they were called.
I can't remember all of them, but I think Spike Milligan had a TV show or a radio show where he had hired some of them. I think he worked with John Cleese and Graham Chapman.
He worked with Peter Sellers.
Yeah, worked with Peter Sellers. So if I'm sure if you're British, you recognize all these people. The novel took place in America.
Oh, it did?
But I guess when Sellers got involved or whoever, they brought it over to.
Yes, I read that Sellers liked the book so much that I don't know if he produced the movie, but he was responsible for wanting to make it.
Mm.
So
they gave a copy of the book to Stanley Kubrick.
Oh yeah,
who liked it, and then that's how Terry Southern got involved with Dr. Strangelove. So it was pretty interesting.
I mean, I had a few laughs in the movie. I mean, I was surprised especially when they get on the ship at the end and you see all the weird stuff that starts to happen. I was like, oh, this is just like one skit after another, but fast paced, but nowadays this movie would have been 2.5 hours like every other stupid movie now. Back then they limited it to 90 minutes, so it was a lot easier to take,
Yeah, exactly. You don't really have any reason why he's doing this. You don't really know, well, other than everybody has their price. There's no real reason why.
I guess if you look at it in a whatever way, it's a satire on class and decadence and, stupidity. And now the whole idea of him adopting Ringo was like, why? Did he need a sidekick or something? I get.
But I mean, I know there seem to be a lot of homosexual references.
Yes, there were. Yes, there were.
I know that, for a time, if here in the States, and
I know what you're going to say.
The older gay man would adopt the younger gay man, so he could
be his inheritance, his heir,
because otherwise they wouldn't acknowledge it.
Yeah, I've heard about that too.
Yeah, so that's and the way Peter Sellers was looking at Ringo Starr sometimes, he's looking him over, almost like he's looking appreciatively at a girl, and then all the stuff with the two bodybuilders dancing, two boxers,
and the boxers. That was what? And Yul Brynner in drag.
Right. So I think there was a lot of social mores they were also trying to attack, and it was just weird though. I know what it was trying to do, but I don't think it did it very successfully.
What other movies on YouTube? Complete movie, and it doesn't look bad, but it's another Terry Southern movie with Ringo. It's Candy. Oh. It's on YouTube, so we'll have to watch it at some point. I downloaded it already for future reference, but yeah, that's on YouTube. But that has from the clips that I saw, it had Richard Burton in it, and I think it has a more I don't know if you want to use the word impressive, but it has a bigger cast of characters or whatever.
I think there was a time.
It was the 60s, man.
Yeah, in the mid to late 60s where Madcap was supposed to be all the rage.
Laughing.
There's laughing with all that popping in and out of skits.
Yeah, that's it.
There was that movie, It's a Mad, 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 Mad World.
That was from early 60s, though.
Funny either. I had collected all these famous people, and they do all weird, stupid madcap things, and it's, you're sort of left wondering, like, am I missing the joke?
I know people that think that movie is hilarious, and I'm like, huh?
Yeah.
It's just one long whatever with famous people in it, I never thought it was that funny. But some people think, oh, it's the funniest thing I ever saw. Maybe you saw it when you were 10.
Yeah.
And you hadn't seen anything else.
Yeah, I just don't. And then also those Pink Panther movies with Peter Sellers.
I do like A Shot in the Dark.
Is that the first one?
No, it's the second one. The one with Elkie Summer.
Man, I don't remember that one. But
that's the one where he goes into the nudist camp.
Oh, yeah.
That one's funny.
There were funny parts in that. But for the most part, I never found Peter Sellers funny or compelling or...
I liked him. I liked him as Clouseau. I mean, I didn't like the other ones, but that movie I saw, and I thought it was like crazy movie. I mean, it was what's that guy? Blake Edwards made it or somebody like that. Yeah, Blake Edwards.
That's why it was better or good.
And it had one of the greatest theme songs of all time,
which is
Pink Panther theme. The Pink Panther theme. Da 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 da. Henry Mancini, man, he was a bad. He was a great composer.
Yeah.
Him and Bacharach. They always made great memorable, theme songs or whatever. But I kind of see this as a precursor to Monty Python in a way. Not as funny.
There was a lot of humor like that on TV and the radio. That sort of absurdist, weird, non sequitur kind of stuff, which I think was a holdover from like vaudeville stage thing where they had quick things and quick skits going on back and forth.
Because Python was 69, I think, or 70 when it started, so it's right after.
Yeah.
And there was something that came out in England before Python. It was called the 1948 show or something like that, and that had Chapman, Cleese, and Eric Idle, and maybe Michael Palin, and it was definitely it was a real precursor to Python, because I think there's even sketches it's either called the 1948 or not the 1948 show. It's on. I think they're on YouTube. I think they used to be, and that's definitely like the almost like right there, Python.
Yeah.
And Python is honestly, for me, Monty Python's Flying Circus was really the only British show that I watched. I never watched Doctor Who or I tried watching Benny Hill again the other day, and my friend goes, "Oh, I used to like Benny Hill better than Python." I go, "Oh, maybe I was wrong when I was a kid." I watched it and I go, "This is stupid."
Yeah.
It's just I mean, okay, yeah, they got a lot of girls running around with like Boots Randolph yakety sax going on, I mean.
But you got to have I go to like ride on a bicycle and the seat falls off and you hear crunch and he goes, "Ooh."
I guess I never got it.
I found that funny. It's like Three Stooges humor.
But then again, I watch it, and then all of a sudden he's like singing some lame-o song, and he's looking at the camera with his little face, and I'm like, and people are laughing. I go, yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah. I just don't find him funny. I don't know. It's one of those things.
Kind of skit humor comes from their theater, vaudeville kind of, and burlesque kind of things.
Yeah, it was TNA comedy, and that's fine with me. But
yeah,
if I hear yakety sax another time, I'll just jump.
Much different than Monty Python, though. Because Monty Python.
Yeah. I never seen anything like that before in my life.
Yeah, yeah. And I can remember every time we would be watching Python. The one time, it was like Sunday nights when it came on in New York. The times my mother would come in.
It was with the nudity. They had the nudity.
Like, what are you watching? Turn that off. It's like, oh my.
It was the one about the Frankenstein. He comes out of the house and he's like suburban Frankenstein. He comes out of the house, he waves by, he gets on the bus and there's a naked lady. I was like, whoa, wait a minute here, you know. I never liked, what was that other one that people loved years later? The Young Ones. I never got into the Young Ones.
They were okay. They were like that punk era. I know.
A punk, a hippie, a 50s guy, I don't know. My favorite though was Second City Television, SCTV. That was my favorite.
They were so much funnier than Saturday Night Live.
Oh, it's way funnier than Saturday Night Live. They're better impressionists. They were better, they had better skits. Again, they were also not live. They were, you know, they were already they weren't in front of a live audience. But man, some of that stuff today. There's a guy on YouTube that has he recorded old half-hour episodes off television, and gosh, they're so funny. There's skits in those that I've never seen before.
Yeah,
those guys were great.
They come on Channel 9. I used to flip to Channel 9 to watch that instead of Saturday Night Live. And Dr. Terror's House of Horrors.
Oh, Dr. Tongues, yeah.
Yeah.
Dr. Tongues, 3D House of Stewardesses with the 3D and then Count Floyd, hey kids.
Yeah, Count Floyd, yeah.
We got a scary movie tonight.
And one time they were showing clips from an Ingmar Bergman movie. It was like Scream.
Oh yeah, Whispers of the Cries of the Wolf or something.
Yeah. Hey, we got the scary movie. Yeah, and then the little clip, he's going, "What the hell is this? What is this? Ooh, scary!"
It's like, oh, kids, interpersonal relationships can be very scary, you know. And then you hear him go, "Who?" And then you hear him cut who brought this thing in? There was one the other day I never saw it on NBC, and it was one of those half-hour ones, but it was an early Count Floyd, and he goes, and today's guest, Count Floyd is going to show you the scary movie, and today's guest is the Pittsburgh Midget. And I'm like, the Pittsburgh Midget? There's a little guy, and he's playing, anyway, when I heard it, that's the best show. Honestly, go on YouTube and type in SCTV, and this guy recorded them all off of West Palm Beach channel, but some of them are still. Yeah, Count Floyd, he just died too, Joe Flaherty. Man, he was funny. God, he was funny. He based it on Chilly Billy, the Pittsburgh horror host who did have a little midget guy and some girls or whatever, but Chilly Billy never dressed up as you know who Chilly Billy looked like? You remember on SCTV Sammy Maudlin? The Sammy Maudlin show, he had an afro, and he wore a tuxedo, and he had a talk show. It was Joe Flaherty. It was on SCT. It was a Sammy Maudlin show. You have these fake.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what Chilly Billy looked like. So he was basically using him as Chilly Billy, but the horror host was a generic Dracula guy from wherever it was. Way funnier than this movie. Let's put it that way.
TV was fun. You had all those individual hosts doing all their scary movie things, and
you had characters. You had Johnny LaRue. You had Martin Short doing Ed Grimley and all that stuff.
It was John Candy did Harry, the guy with the snake.
Snake on his face.
Selling something. I forget what he was selling.
Hey, if you buy a car this week, we'll give you some scrambled eggs. Yeah, okay, man. That's Harry, the guy with the snake on his face. It's funny because now people do tattoo snakes on their faces.
Then you had Andrea Martin and what's the other guy?
Catherine O'Hara.
Yeah, but she was selling. RVs, I think, or something, and Dave Thomas is in the back playing.
Oh yeah. She goes, hi. Yeah, she was like Edna. No, she wasn't selling RVs. I think she was selling like those Lowry organs or whatever.
Something like that.
Oh no, he was playing a Lowry organ. He, come on down and see us, and all these like, yes, that's all on there.
Yeah, it's fun. Oh, I gotta have to watch that then.
Yeah, I mean, I go on the channel and I get on the channel itself, and they just play back to back to back without going.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's getting back to the movie du jour today, which is The Magic Christian. This is from '69. We talked about some of the people who's in the movie. Well, after so it starts off with Ringo's like in the park. He's sleeping in a sleeping bag, and the police officer tells him he's got to get out, and then Peter Sellers sees him, and he adopts him. Okay.
Then it also shows you Peter Sellers waking up in his big bed, and then the bells of the Big Ben is chiming, and it's like, so he's showing Peter Sellers eat his breakfast, which is all fancy stuff, and then Ringo Starr eating the slice of bread, and Peter Sellers doing something, then Ringo Starr getting yelled at by that lady for wearing sunglasses and stuff, and it's just going back and forth their different lives. Like one's on the top,
upstairs, downstairs,
that kind of thing. And so then you see Ringo Starr feeding the ducks, and Peter Sellers walks by, and he's looking, and then he comes back, and he's talking to Ringo Starr, and he goes, "What are you doing?" He says, "Oh, I'm feeding the ducks. I do it every day." So then Peter Sellers goes, "Can I join you?" And Ringo Starr says, "Sure." Yeah, so Peter Sellers takes out his wallet and takes out some cash, and he starts breaking it up and throwing it to the ducks to feed them. It's like, okay. Yeah. And then you can't really hear them because the music's loud. But, first Ringo Starr's trying to avoid them and run away, and then suddenly, he slows down and they start talking. And then you see them, they're in some like lawyer's office, a bunch of lawyers in front of him, and he signs the paper, and he now becomes, Peter Sellers adopted him, so now he's Youngman Good Guy.
Yeah, Youngman Good something. Yeah, that's it.
Guy Grand, that's it. Youngman Grand. So. And then they're holding their.
Is that when they go to that Shakespearean thing or whatever?
Well, yeah, he's telling Youngman that everybody has their price and stuff, and then so they take him to get a new suit. I know, right?
Yeah, no, you're right.
No, my cat's here. She's talking to me. So then, he gets a suit. Oh, you have to be dressed up to see how the first nighters witness entertainment or something like that. So it's like the opening of Hamlet, and then it's the scene. It's very serious and somber. And then
it's Lawrence Harvey playing.
Lawrence Harvey comes out, and he's a Shakespeare. Then he starts stripping like he's a artist. And some people get upset and walk out, and some of the women are, some
of the guys are looking at him too,
looking.
Oh God.
So so
you at this point you see what you're in for. It almost sets you up for like anything can happen in this movie.
Yeah. So then they.
So he strips and they take him out or whatever, and they're like, okay.
Yeah.
Decadent people.
Yeah, he's changing his English accent, or Peter Sellers.
He does. He changes his accent because Peter Sellers is really good at doing accents.
Yeah.
So throughout the whole movie, he becomes like a working class accent and this and that and the other thing.
Someone, like who's in the army and so. Yeah, so it's all these different English accents. So then he goes to a rowing. Like where they have that rowing event on the Thames.
No. Before that, there's a supermarket scene. Remember, there was a supermarket scene or did I miss that? I think that maybe I that's the second scene that I wrote down. You're not talking about the rowing scene with Oxford, are you? With the
Yeah.
that's later in the movie.
What's the supermarket?
There's a supermarket scene where he just goes to he buys a supermarket and he lowers the prices on everything.
Oh, right. He keeps lowering we lower the prices to let everything sold out. Then we close up the store and then say we're at a new location. And I'm not. Yeah, I wasn't sure like what that was meant to be.
I don't know I don't know what kind of what they were criticizing. Maybe they were criticizing. I know that from listening to other Brits and being interviewed or musicians, that around the early 70s they started bringing in like a lot of supermarkets.
Oh yeah.
As opposed to like, whatever, fresh food places or whatever. So maybe it was a commentary on commerce or whatever. I don't know. I didn't get it either. I just thought, okay, fine, whatever. So I just wrote down scenes because it's always just like a bunch of scenes strapped together. Then there was that boardroom scene where he's like, I don't know if they were in a train or not, but he's like,
they were on a train. That's right. I don't have that down. If they were on a train, and it's a real tight.
It's a tight room.
You don't know what it is, and then he's
trying to sell a car or something.
Yeah, he's like a typical CEO, being commanded by yesing him and stuff. Yeah, so then he's trying to sell a giant car, the Zeus. And he's saying, cars are getting tinier, and when you get tinier, you get tinier people. Oh, there was also a scene before that where he had bought a newspaper.
That's right.
And then
he was complaining about the language. Why does this have French words in it? Why does it have,
Exactly. And it's like, I said, well, just stop it, that kind of thing. And then, this talk, he has a short film about the car, the Zeus. It's a giant car. It's got a 40-foot long hook. This is an animation you're watching, and it's, to show to highlight the prestige of the British car and all that stuff. And then he's asking people for slogans, and they come up with, typical slogans that don't really say much. And then you see the train stops, and he
fires everybody.
And they're getting I don't know, it's something like they're getting their pay from different countries, or they're going to different countries for new jobs or something. And everybody was getting a pay packet. And at that point, some of this confused me, I have to admit, because you're like, what am I?
Well, what are you criticizing then? The way corporations just get rid of people?
Probably.
I agree with that. I've lived through that.
Yeah, that's every friggin' company I work for, though.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, one day they just come in and they sack everybody. But I guess it was a criticism. Well, it's like you said, it's a criticism on capitalism.
Yeah, but even small mom and pop places can do that too.
They just don't have a big boardroom with 30 guys that are, overpaid or whatever.
So, yes, some of this, it seemed like it was making fun of capitalism,
or decadent Brits, or, or guys like, Peter Cushing. Peter Sellers is like your typical CEO who buys out, has a bunch of companies and, just about this newspaper. It's like today, really, and he's just like wheeling, dealing, and firing and being, part of it to me is you could use that as a criticism of what's going on today with the super rich, who are doing decadent things, supposedly, more than likely. I can fire you at any whim and or can buy you. They can buy themselves out of a parking ticket or anything they do, just by throwing money at people or whatever. So then there's another scene after that where, the hot dog scene, he goes on the train again with everybody.
Yeah, he goes to his sisters and,
that was another weird scene, but anyway.
Yeah, and then I'm not sure how that criticizes capitalism. He the guy's selling hot dogs, and so he comes out
and he changed his accent, like to be a working class guy or something.
Once he buys a hot dog, then he gives the guy a $5, and then the train's at the station. Peter Sellers is talking out of the train, and the guy in the cart is like, "Come on,
I have change."
Yeah, so he gives him a $5. He says, "I can't change a $5." So Peter Sellers says, "All right, hold on." So then he comes back, and the train's moving, and the guy in the cart is sort of trying to keep up with the train, and then he gives him a 10, and he goes, I can't change a 10 either. What are you doing?" And Peter Sellers goes in, and he puts on a pig mask and comes out again and oinks.
Capitalist pig.
Yeah, the guy stops, and like his soda bottles pop. And then, the train pulls away, and the guy's like trying to not let his cart turn over and stuff. And I'm like, what the hell is that about?
Again, if you saw this at midnight in the 70s and you were wasted, you'd probably think it's, hey, wow, I get it, man, But in reality, it's just a series of skits.
Yeah.
That's why we're talking the way we are, because it's not a coherent story.
Yeah, there's no coherent story. You have Peter Sellers doing stuff. You're not exactly sure why.
Yeah, just because he can.
I guess.
Just because he's a decadent, rich weirdo who, grabs guys off the street and makes them their sons.
And in some ways, it's presenting him like he's the hero because he's calling everybody on this.
Yeah, you're right.
Yet he's also living the same kind of lifestyle. So,
and he's supposed to be a hero, supposed to be criticizing everything, but he's also, in a way, the guy who's taking advantage of everybody and showing them to be like, he's like the greedy rich guy taking advantage of the pathetic working class or whatever. So what statement are you trying to make there? That rich are bad, but you're also saying that working class will do anything for a buck, including what they do at the end, which we haven't gotten to yet. So.
Yeah.
So then there's another scene where there's this jerky guy in the train. They go into a booth, into one of the train, and that looks exactly like A Hard Day's Night when the Beatles go in to the train and they confront the guy there who's in there, the stuffy old British guy. It looked exactly like that scene.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I've deja vu here.
Scene in the restaurant looked like that scene in
Magical Mystery Tour.
Mystery Tour when they're giving
where John Lennon's feeding them all the spaghetti.
Yeah. So they're in the train, and this guy's sort of really huffy, stuffy, and Peter Sellers goes, "There's one guy, he's made his money off the misery of the poor," or whatever.
Yeah, that's it exactly.
And then
he's always complaining about, close the windows, there's a draft.
Close the door, there's a draft. And then on the other side of where he sits, there's a Oriental man in a, what do you call it? Derby, and he's dressed like he's a Londoner. And then reading the paper, and then his chair keeps disappearing into the back and turning around, and then there's another Oriental, a different.
I know, it's like trippy crap.
Yeah, it goes, and then the guy's kind of like slightly noticing, and again, it's like, what the hell's that? So then
trippy.
He goes in, and he's in this party, and then
his chair moves in the back, and he goes into that wall part, which is totally strobed out. So if you have some kind of epileptic problem, not for you.
And that, and there's a stripper dancing at him. There's a guy dressed like a nun taking photos and all this weird psychedelic stuff. And the strobe lights flashing. And then he comes out and he's all like looking all weird and stuff. And then the train stops and you see everybody getting off. And, including, like the stripper, and there was a guy in a frogman suit.
Yeah.
It's like
typical absurdist humor or whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
And then after that, the next vignette is a fox hunt, which they start out walking out with like regular guns, and then it turns into like a war thing.
Shooting birds.
Yeah, they're doing like they're doing duck hunting or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, so then he starts. Again, it's all this upper crust, grouchy men with guns and then he sees a bird, and then Peter Sellers starts shooting. And they're in like a cluster of trees, and then he starts. I think he's machine gunning.
And then bombs and stuff like that go off.
Birds fly away, and then he calls for there's some anti-aircraft guns firing, and you see explosions in the skies. It almost looks like they're trying to shoot down a plane. So then the bird gets hit, falls down, and then the guy with a flamethrower comes in and breaks the bird. So then you see the bird, it's all like burnt ashes and
it's a Vietnam War thing, you know what I mean?
But then, they bring it home, and
Ringo gets introduced to the staff.
Yeah, gets introduced, and I don't know. There's some funny names which I don't know if there's anything that's supposed
to mean anything to us, right? I mean, you know.
Yeah. So then they're
Peter Sellers starts doing more war games in the house. Like he's got
this giant game board, and he's shooting up cathedrals in this not like giant map of England.
Yeah.
One of the sisters walk in and says, "We can't eat the bird because it's all ashes and burnt up and stuff." And then Peter Sellers blames the cook because she ruined it. So, let's go out to eat at Edwards.
Yeah.
And then they go to the restaurant, and Peter Sellers, he's always handing out wads of cash to people when he wants something. So he hands this wad of cash to Edward, who then goes, and they sit him down. He sits separate from where Ringo Starr is, and there's big long tables and nobody has food, and they keep trying to get the waiter's attention, but he's ignoring them, paying attention to Peter Sellers. So Peter Sellers orders caviar. Well, they put like a
plastic suit and covering over him.
Buckle him up. So then caviar, and they mix it all with stuff, and then he grabs it and smears it all over his face and eats it. And the same thing, some kind of orange ducks. He's like ripping at it. I
know.
And then they bring Ringo Starr a box of Rice Krispies.
I also read that in this movie, I guess Peter Sellers was, from what I've read, was a bit of a diva in these movies, and apparently, he when they were making the movie, he thought that Ringo had funnier lines, so they took him away from Ringo and they gave him to Peter Sellers. So
that's surprising, because Ringo pretty much does very little.
He was just deadpan.
Yeah, and he makes a couple of comments and stuff, but yeah, does very little.
And then they go back home and they're watching the boxing match with the American guy versus the Brit guy.
And apparently he had paid for them to do this. So they look real tough and stuff, and then they have
And Peter Sellers is like wearing like a robe, and he's doing boxing moves and all that crap.
The American guy spits his teeth protector out, and he goes, "Ooh, you look so cute." And then
you're like, what?
Smiles, and then they start kissing. Everybody's all upset, and they get up and they leave. And
so stupid.
So one of the sisters complains about what he's watching, so he puts back. The scene started with them watching. I think it's the Chicago riots.
Yeah. And then the guy in Vietnam getting shot or whatever.
Yeah. So they put it back onto that violence, and then they all go back to doing what they were doing and stuff. And then
there's a double parking scene where, like, he gets to take.
That was when he did the thing with the Oxford rowing team.
No, the Oxford rowing team is like afterwards. It's after the Rembrandt painting scene.
Okay.
I wrote him down.
All right.
So basically he parks like wherever in the middle, like in the wrong place, and he's going to get, and he sees a parking ticket on his car, and he's like, "Oh, what's this? Did somebody send me a letter or something like that?" And then there's a police officer there, Spike Milligan, and he's like, "No, you have a ticket, sir. You're parked in a loading zone." So he goes, "Oh." And then Ringo starts reading some book and making all these like stupid faces or whatever out of the window.
It's isometric is when you do a hold for like.
Oh yeah, that's it.
What's that guy's name? You saw him
Charles Atlas.
That kind of thing. Yeah. So and then.
So then, Peter Sellers is like, look, and he pulls out like 500, pounds. He goes, I'll give you 500 pounds if you eat the ticket. And the guy, Spike Milligan, the police officer, is like, what? And he goes, yeah, you don't have to say anything to anybody. Just eat it. I'll give you 10 seconds. Of course he does.
Yeah.
Gets the 500 pounds, which is probably a lot of money back then.
Plastic. Peter Sellers goes, oh, you don't have to eat the plastic. Spike Milligan goes, oh, that's okay. Well, wherever you want. I'm here most Thursdays or something like,
Yeah, that's it, exactly, yeah. And then go ahead.
And Ringo Starr is reading about the Magic Christian.
Yeah, about the boat. Yeah, right.
It's going to be the biggest thing. It's super luxurious. Only the top creme de la creme of society will be able to sail in it. And it's like, back, whatever the high price was, several $1,000s to get a ticket to board and stuff. So then they drive to an auction.
With John Cleese.
Yeah, so then Peter Sellers is looking around and he hears John Cleese just talking in his upper crust voice about a painting. And they see this picture, looks like Rembrandt, and Peter Sellers goes, how much for this painting? He says, well...
This French painting.
Tell me about this painting.
This French Rembrandt.
It's by School of Rembrandt, and it's estimated to fetch...
7,000 pounds.
1,000. He goes, well, how about if I offer you 15? And the guy's like, 15? And then he's telling about the painting, and then Peter Sellers, oh, how about 30 then? So he buys the painting, and then he's talking about, the French Rembrandt. No, Rembrandt was Dutch. He goes, Dutch? I don't like the Dutch. The painting's kind of chipped and distorted, except around the nose. So then he takes out a pair of scissors and he starts cutting the painting up. And then, like, John Cleese is like, because he's destroying a piece of art. Then it just clips the nose and he goes, oh, don't like the Dutch, but like the French. That's a good French nose painted there. But, in his pocket, and then walks away.
And then they go to another auction.
Yeah, they're going to another auction, and then...
well, this wasn't an auction at first, but it was going to be an auction. Then he goes to the real auction.
Tells Ringo Starr that when you're bidding, you have to be real subtle. And you see people bidding by just raising a finger or grabbing their ear. So then he starts signaling. It was for a painting of two dogs. And then you see two rich Americans. She says, oh, that'd be lovely for our living room. It'll match the colors. So he starts bidding against Peter Sellers. And then Peter Sellers is using all sorts of, like, whistles and flare guns and, naval devices to
keep driving the price up.
The bidding. So then it finally gets up real high. So he goes, the American guy wins. And they go, mark that as sold. So then you see the guy take some white paint, and write sold on it over the painting.
And then your favorite scene after that, the boat race.
Yes, the boat race. So he bribes the rowing captain, the guy
Oxford, Graham Chapman.
Yeah, so they're like, oh, we can't be bought. We're Oxford men. And so he opens up a suitcase full of money, and they're like, oh. So then the boat race starts, and then you see the Oxford men rowing, and they get a little ahead of the other team. I forget where they were from. And then you see Peter Sellers and Ringo Starr on a boat with other men supporting Oxford. And then they're watching the Oxford team, and the Oxford team, they get ahead, and then they like turn around, and they ram the other boat right down the middle, and it's falling. And then as the guys are trying to get out of the water, the Oxford team's down and stuff. And then all the men who were on the viewing boat, where Sellers and Ringo were, they're all getting sick to their stomach and throwing up over the hit. It's like, what the hell?
I guess they're criticizing, college, sport.
Well, I mean, I know there's this sort of, like we have here, if you go to Yale or Harvard, you're in some club.
Society, yeah, some private group. Skull Bones.
They see you have it on your resume, you get hired, and you're part of the old money club, I guess.
Well, a lot of the presidents come from Harvard.
Yeah, exactly.
Skull and Bones.
Yeah. So,
so then they decide to go up on the Magic Christian ship.
Yeah, that's right. So they get on the Magic Christian ship, and everybody's loading.
And you see like a fake John and Yoko and a fake Jackie Onassis and all that stuff going in there.
Stop that to slow and go by slowly because because it did look like John Lennon.
It did look like John and Yoko, but I don't think it was.
It wasn't. They were fake. So then they get on the boat, and the captain is
Wilford Hyde White or something like that.
Yeah, the way he talks, looks scatterbrained and stuff, and he's always, drinking. And there's this beautiful boat, and it's got TVs everywhere where you can watch the captain as he's steering the boat and stuff. And you see Roman Polanski sitting at a bar.
No. Before you get to him, there's a bunch of other stuff that happens. The first, because I actually sat down and just whatever, every scene. No, the next scene is when they're in the male stripper scene. When they're in the restaurant, all of a sudden the lights go.
Yeah, the cabaret or whatever. Yeah, so and the lights go out, and then you see they're introducing these two muscle men in really brief bottoms, and they start dancing and stuff.
And guys start feeding them money. People start feeding them money and stuff, and you're going like,
even his hand with a piece of paper in it, and the other guy takes it and stuffs it in, and then there was some stuffy English colonel or whatever, sitting next to Peter Sellers, who was he was like mortified at these guys. Not sure if he was mortified or he was secretly enjoying it.
Yeah, because there's a lot of gay undertones in this movie.
So the one guy jumps in the arms of the other guy, and he swings him forward over the table where that colonel was, whatever he was, and then back, and then there's where's the scene with the vampire?
Not yet. Then there's a scene where they're in the bedroom and they're watching. I forgot who it was. It's watching TV, and it's a shot of the captain. And all of a sudden, it's like Cuban hijackers, and you're like, Cuban hijackers?
Yeah, I remember this stuff. I just don't remember them in the order.
Yeah. And then there's that scene, and you're like, what? And then they go to see him, and he says there's no hijackers. And then when he closes the door, you hear gunshots. You're like, huh? This is when he gets really in bizarro land. And then after that, there's that pot scene where there's a old British guy walking down the hallway, and this kind of effeminate psychiatrist starts talking to him. He goes, "What's your problem?" And he goes, "But what do you mean?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm the ship's doctor. I can help you." And he's like, "No, I don't have any problems or whatever. I'm just anxious or whatever." And he goes, "Well, try this." And he gave him a joint. Remember?
That was the gay guy was Leonard Fry.
Yeah, Leonard Fry from what was that movie? The Boys in the Band or something like that. Yeah. He was also on this weirdo Hollywood Squares match game show that was a weird combination that shows up on the game show channel every once in a while. They did it for a year, and it was like the show was half the match game, and then the second half was Hollywood Squares. And it was hosted by Gene Rayburn and Bowser. It was weird, but Leonard Fry was on the show, and I'm like, who is this guy? He's kind of gay, whatever. And then, I found out, I looked him up, and he was in, Boys in the Band, and he's the ship's, whatever doctor's name is, Lawrence Fagot, but it's spelled, Faggot, but whatever, And he's kind of effeminate, but he gives them a joint. When the old guy takes a puff of it, he goes, "Oh, this is like some crappy hemp." He goes, "Oh, I'm a cop." And he
hemp.
Wog hemp.
Weed.
Wog is a very bad word in Britain.
Yeah, it's
the N word. It's the N word.
I think they use it for Indians.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So then he changes and he goes, "Oh, I'm a cop," and he takes him in. That's like a reference to, like, I think there was a cop back in England that was busting in on rock stars and planting pot.
Yeah.
I think that might be some kind of a reference, because this is a very rock and roll, hippy dippy, whatever kind of movie or whatever. So then there's another weird scene. I don't know if you remember, it was on television, where they're going to be doing a transplant. They're transplanting a black guy's head on a
movie. They were going to go show a movie. So
let's go. Men in White. The movie was Men in White.
But, yeah. So then
Peter Sellers goes, "Oh, that's a great movie.
A classic." And then it's, they go, you see people sitting in the little theater, and then, there's a shot of, doctors, and there's you see, like, the head of the black guy laying on the table. They're doing the first head transplant, interracial head transplant. And then it pans past the doctors, and then you see the feet, and the feet are pointing the other way.
And they go, "Oops, we messed up. That's okay. We got plenty of others to do."
Yeah. I think that was another, Vietnam War reference.
But I don't know when the Incredible Two-Headed Transplant came out, but I don't know if they were referring to that movie. I don't remember what year. I think it came afterwards, but it was kind of like, it felt like, okay, are you making a reference to that? I think the Incredible Two-Headed Transplant was like 70 or 71. It was Ray Milland and Rosie Greer.
Yeah.
So then while that's going on, then you see the scene where Chris Lee comes in.
Okay. He comes in. He's dressed in a steward uniform, bringing something.
Yeah, right.
Oh, thank you. And you can see him in the mirror. So I don't know.
Yeah, well.
Anyway, she says, "All right, you're excused," and he starts coming towards her, and you see he opens his mouth, and he's got his fangs in there, and then she runs screaming from the boat.
And he bites the waiter, or bites somebody or whatever, because he goes, you see his fangs or whatever. So,
yeah.
And then the Roman Polanski and Yul Brynner scene where Yul Brynner lip syncs "Mad About the Boy" or some crap like that.
Yeah, and then
I knew it was Yul Brynner. And at the end, he had to take his wig off, but I knew it was him because it was like, it looks like Yul Brynner,
So he's singing it. Roman Polanski is indifferent and bringing, and Yul Brynner's walking around singing, and then he's singing to two other guys at the bar, and they're all like looking at her, or like, "Oh, she's attractive." Oh. And then at the end, he finishes the song. He pulls off his wig, and the one guy goes, "Oh no," and Yul Brynner goes, "Oh yes."
And then after that, there's a cool, and I wrote down Yul Brynner, gross, on my notes, but. And then there's another scene, one of the best scenes in the movie, where Chris Lee's walking through the hallway as Dracula. That was cool. That was cool.
Capes flowing behind him and stuff.
And he attacks the captain.
And
then the ship starts going into the chaos. Like, I don't know if it's sinking or something's happening.
They see the captain, because there's TVs everywhere.
Yeah.
So he's drinking and drunk, and suddenly there's a gorilla.
Yeah, there's a gorilla.
They're fighting, and then suddenly you hear "abandoned ship, abandoned," and everybody starts panicking. And so some people are looking. There's nowhere to escape, and Ringo Starr goes, "Oh, we can escape through here." So he walks them through to some engineering area.
This actually is the best scene in the movie.
Yeah, they open the door and there's like 100 women naked but for like loincloths, and they're rowing. And then there's Raquel Welch dressed in this really skimpy outfit and headdress, and she's whipping at them, getting to row. And the implication is that's the engine of the ship.
And that image is actually on the poster for the movie of Raquel Welch and her. Of course.
So
of course.
She sees the people there. She says, "What are you doing in my engine room?" And
he whips them too. One guy wants to be whipped. He's like, "Oh, please!"
And one guy goes, "Oh, do that again." So then they're all stumbling about it, and then they start breaking through walls. And as they break through the wall, you see this graffiti that's saying, "Smash capitalism."
No. The ship, they're breaking through the walls. All of a sudden, they look out and they see that, we're New York. We got to New York.
Yeah, that's right, because it was like a fake.
Yeah. And then they get out of the ship and they see the Tower of London or the London Bridge, and they're going like, we never went anywhere.
Yeah.
But basically the ship didn't go anywhere, it just stayed there.
It's the stage in
And then at the end is when they get you can go the bright idea about free money or whatever.
Yeah, he at the end, it's Ringo Starr spraying on a long sheet, free money, and Peter Sellers has a megaphone saying, almost ready, almost here, and then a tanker truck pulls up.
They want like animal blood, feces, and urine.
So they start pouring it. All the people who saw this thing about free money, they came close, and when they started pouring, they all went, "Oh." But there's free money. But then, as the thing is filling up, Peter Sellers is throwing banknotes into the
stinky pool,
and then you see everybody jumping in and
sticking their head underneath to get money and
putting in underneath and stuff.
Yeah, and then I think while others going, they're playing the Thunderclap Newman song, "Something in the Air." They also played "Come and Get It." They also played "Carry On Till Tomorrow," and I forgot what the other song, "Rock of Ages." Maybe those were three good Badfinger songs from the soundtrack, Magic Christian Music, which is a good record. And then the last scene.
Yeah, the last scene is
sleeping bag.
In his sleeping bag that you saw in the beginning of the movie. And Peter Sellers is there too, and he goes, it seems like a better way to do this or whatever. So they lay down and they're sleeping, and then the guy from the beginning of the movie comes along to chase both him and Ringo Starr. And then you see Peter Sellers' hands come out with money. So then the guy looks around, takes the money, sticks it in his shirt, and says, "All right, you guys can sleep here whenever you want." And then
the end. And then they play. I forgot what the last song. Oh, they play. I think it was "Come and Get It" again at the very end, right?
Yeah. In fact, "Come and Get It" was played several times, like in the marching band where people. They played like a slightly different version of it.
Yeah. So basically, this movie hammers you over your head with, the money is the root of all evil, or
something like that, or smash capitalism.
Smash capitalism, or whatever.
Being gay is good. That was my cat.
What can I tell you? I chuckled a few times. I wasn't bored, just because it was kind of like you didn't know what was going to happen next.
Yeah.
There was no rhyme or reason. I just wrote down scenes because it just seemed like these scenes were kind of like random.
Yeah, I'm sure with a bit of tweaking, this could have been a more fun movie. At least you know why the hell he's doing all this stuff, because you don't really get that.
All it was a social commentary,
Yeah,
money, greed, decadence, poverty, hate capitalism, all that crap,
So yeah,
it was the times. It was 68 or 69 when they made it,
That's when like movies started changing, where
socially relevant.
Yeah, they could be a little more.
And the kids were changing too. The kids were like becoming more political and songs like Revolution and all that all that stuff that doesn't seem to ever go away. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway. But back then it was I don't know, maybe more organic, I don't know. But I mean, I don't know what to say about this movie. I laughed a few times. I just sat there going like, what's next? So it didn't bore me. It went by pretty fast.
Yeah, it's not boring. It's interesting seeing and recognizing various actors.
It's not extremely funny, but it's whatever. It's weird. It's absurdist.
Some of the skits were a little funny, and I guess on paper they may have seemed more funny than
Yeah.
So, yeah, whoever translated this into a movie
Terry
script,
Southern.
Yeah, I don't know if he's ever written a movie script before.
Well, I think he wrote Candy. He was responsible for whether he wrote the script or not. I don't know. He was responsible for Dr. Strangelove, this, and Candy, and maybe others too. But I know it was those three.
I don't know. I don't know. This one just kind of fell short. But
yeah, I mean, like I said, I didn't hate it.
No, it's not horrible. It's interesting, and because I watched it last night, and I'm like, oh, there's so and so. Oh, that's kind of funny, I mean, there were some funny lines, like when Spike Milligan was eating the parking ticket, and then he started eating the plastic, and Peter Sellers says, "Oh, you don't have to eat the plastic," and he goes, "Oh, that's all right."
Yeah, for 500 pounds or whatever, sure, I'll eat it, And I mean,
there was another thing where Peter Sellers offers, what's his name? John Cleese, the 30,000, and John Cleese goes, "Shit," and then Ringo Starr, he gets upset and he goes into Peter Sellers, and Peter Sellers like, "Yeah, that's okay." That made me laugh. It was real quick, but it made me laugh. So there were some funny parts. But,
yeah.
In the whole, it just, I don't know. It was very heavy-handed.
I see it as a heavy-handed precursor to what was Python, funnier.
Yeah, that kind
of Python wasn't as heavy-handed with his political or economic. They would get away with a few things here and there, but this was a little bit too much. But it's a I don't know if you want to call it a relic, but it's a movie of its time.
Yeah, movie of its time. The same thing like Putney Swope. You watch that.
Yeah.
And, you don't find it funny, but I know people who would find it funny.
I'd never seen it before.
Yeah.
I remember seeing a clip of seeing a fleeting image on TV of Christopher Lee and then a fleeting image of Raquel Welch, and that was it. I had no idea what it was in for. So.
Right. Yeah.
But it was on TV back in, because it's back. Edited, yeah.
But
a couple scenes anyway, so. I don't know, that's part, 4 of our Ringo retrospective. Actually, if you want to do a complete Ringo, you have to do Hard Day's Night and Let It Be and,
well, let's do Candy before we do Hard Day's Night.
Before we do the musicals or whatever. We'll do Candy in the future. It's on YouTube or whatever. I already downloaded it, so we'll give Ringo a break, I guess, for a day, but yeah. Yeah, you gotta do Magical Mystery Tour. You gotta do Hard Day's Night. You gotta do Help. What?
Didn't we do Magical Mystery Tour?
That's right. We don't have to do Magical Mystery Tour. Help, Hard Day's Night. And he was also in a documentary about Mark Bolan called Born to Boogie, which I don't know if it counts as an acting role, but he's in it. But maybe it doesn't count. So at least those two, and maybe something else that I don't remember offhand. I don't know, but But yeah, the next one will be Candy, and it'll also be another. Candy's another Terry Southern movie, so it'll also be another socially relevant critique of society,
times and stuff.
You know. But anyway, the Magic Christian. I don't know. You heard what we said. If that sounds good to you, go ahead and watch it. It's on YouTube.
Yeah. Is it horrible? No. Is it as funny as it's claimed to be? No. It's interesting and it has its moments. So
it's interesting. At the moment, it's gonna club you over the head with its
message,
political or economic message. But if you don't mind, if you want to see absurdist, quote unquote comedy and strange, and like Peter Sellers or a big Ringo fan, it's worth checking out.
Yeah.
I wasn't bored.
That's the best word for it, absurdist.
It's totally it's pre-Python. It's total absurdist humor, and with some kind of a message.
Yeah.
A kind of a 1960s message. You know. So there you go. So we'll do something else. The reason I picked this is because I was looking on YouTube, and I had bookmarked a bunch of movies from like a year ago, and it sure looks like those movies that are being taken down.
Really?
So it's like, a lot of movies are being taken down. So it's like, oh, there's not on here. I mean, unless it's come up in another room. So I'm like, oh crap, I got to find something. And I'm just typing in Ringo. Okay. And there's Magic Christian and a nice copy of it. I go, okay, that's it. It's a nice copy of it. It's watchable. It's not some digitized mess. Yeah. I'm glad I watched it.
Yeah.
You know.
Again, it's of its time. Brought back some memories of when I was young. It's
midnight movie, you know, like if you were around back then and used to go to the midnight movies and get wasted at midnight on Saturday and watch, this is a movie for you.
Yep.
So we'll be back in a couple of weeks with something, I don't know, something else.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, Rowdy, what should we be doing?
You should watch more B-movies.